Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Basketball Conference, the ACC football podcast. My name is Joey Weaver. Mike McDaniel back out on paternity leave. That's right. His wife, I think, has just had another kid within about a 3-month span. So congratulations to him. Send him your best wishes on the Twitters and everything. Kind of a stressful, crazy time in his life, I'm sure, but he would really appreciate your good vibes and not checking the math on that. Of course, I am kidding. Mike actually is out tonight and this week. He closed on their very first house today. As I record this on Monday evening, they are neck deep in packing as they prepare to move tomorrow. So Mike ultimately got the executive veto tonight, we'll say, and Mike was not available as he continues to help pack and prepare to move tomorrow. These are things that happen when this is kind of a not even really a full-on side hustle. This just sort of happens at times. So Mike should be in the new house and ready to go for our Week 6 preview here later this week. But for now, you're stuck with me. It is just me here to recap Week 5. Thankfully, I think I got a decent sense of how a lot of these games went. So I will do my very best to give you kind of a sense of how these games went, but I am very likely going to be making a couple of things up here and saying a couple of incorrect things, so please do correct us if I do say something that is incorrect. I will be available on Twitter to make any corrections as necessary. I am at FTRSJoey, or alternately, our customer service line can be reached at Mike McDaniel SI. So please tweet us there if something incorrect is said here. Let's jump in. Week 5, a lot of good games in the ACC, I thought, and none better than the headliner of the weekend. They got College Game Day and everything. The number 5 Clemson Tigers 30. The number 10 NC State Wolfpack 20. A banger of a game on Saturday night. It was a kind of a slow, steady performance. It was 13-10 at halftime. Clemson finally pulls away in the fourth quarter and kind of puts this thing out of reach. I thought this was a really well-played game. I thought Clemson in particular looked really good. Their defense really stepped up. One of the better performances we've seen from them in a little while. The way that they gave NC State's offense all sorts of problems all night long. So I was really impressed with the way that the defense played, and I thought the coaching, we've had a couple of concerns about that so far in the post-Brent Venables era at Clemson, but I did not think that was really a concern in this game. The Clemson defense was there and putting up a really good fight all night long, so credit to them. I'll say this too. For all of our talk in week 1 or so about how we were really just getting ourselves to the club level, and this was going to be Cade Klubnik's Clemson offense here sooner than later. Cade Klubnik's Clemson offense. Say that 10 times fast. Big Cinco looked good again, and I think things are kind of starting to click into place for him. And I don't know that he is quite as dynamic or amazing as Deshaun Watson or Trevor Lawrence were for Clemson. But that's a hell of a high bar to clear, and it's not really a fair expectation of, I think, almost anybody at this point. And so huge credit to him. He played well yet again. He did not turn the ball over. 21 of 30 for 209 and a touchdown, no picks through the air. 14 carries for 73 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. And that I think, really is where the difference is made, is when not only – DJU, Big Cinco, he's always been able to run – but I think there's been a hesitancy from the Clemson coaching staff to actually run him, considering last year it was like him and then like walk-ons basically on the depth chart. But that's probably the biggest difference that Cade Klubnik is making right now, is realizing that there is a plan B if and when DJU is to go down with an injury. So it gives a little bit more freedom to say, yeah, let's use him in the run game. He can, take a couple more hits, and he's a big physical guy anyways. So you figure he's able to withstand a little bit of physical punishment that comes with running the ball. But the gain that you're getting on offense from that has been enormous. Clemson still struggled to run the ball, I think, otherwise. Will Shipley, 14 carries for 60 yards, barely over 4 yards a carry. Phil Maffa, about 4 yards a carry. So nothing really truly outstanding from Clemson on offense, and I really thought part of that was a testament to the NC State defense as well. Those guys showed up to play as well. I thought they played a pretty good game all told. It ultimately, like, my heart hurts for NC State and their fans in this one. I mean, I know how bad you wanted this, how long you've been waiting for it. This game in particular, I mean, you've been thinking about this and wanting it basically since the schedules were announced back in, January? So to lose this and just, a couple of the plays here or there that just didn't go your way, and that sucks, and I hate that for them. Like I said, NC State's defense I thought played well. They recused themselves well. It was just, a couple plays here or there that really made the difference, a couple drives here or there for Clemson in particular. So, credit where it's due. I thought NC State acquitted themselves well. I do believe they dropped a little bit in the polls this week, but that really just has to be like the requisite you lost so you can't stay in place. They're down to 14th, but I still think NC State a really good team here. Devin Leary, I thought looked okay. His stat line doesn't look great, but man, I thought he got let down pretty badly by his wide receivers in this game. Thayer Thomas got 14 targets, 9 catches, 84 yards. He was really good. Everybody else, I thought there were a bunch of drops. There were struggles to get open. There were just a number of things that were happening from NC State's receivers, not named Thayer Thomas, that were not helping Devin Leary at all. And in fact, the interception that's charged to Devin Leary on the stat sheet, the throw that he made, it wasn't perfectly on target. It was a little bit behind a receiver who was stopping, but it was in a window that he had to throw the ball. The receiver tipped the ball up, and it falls right into the lap of a Clemson receiver. So without being tipped, I don't even think that ball is caught. I think it's just an incomplete pass, but instead it turns into an interception. I believe Clemson got a short field off of that as well at some point in the third quarter. So again, I think NC State played well. I just think this was a really good performance from Clemson in front of their home crowd, and one of the best Clemson performances we've seen in quite a while. And it's just kind of an example of the unfortunate reality of college football in this day and age, where Clemson is one of the most talented teams in the country. And when a team that's that talented puts it together for a full 4 quarters like this, and especially at home in front of that home crowd and getting the home field advantage, it's like there's only so much you're going to be able to do. And I thought NC State, again, a veteran team with plenty of good players of their own, and I thought they played reasonably well, but just was not enough to get it done here. So huge credit to Clemson. I think they're putting it together, and I know that the sticking point especially has been offense, and I think ultimately it's fair to say maybe that this offense is still not what you would maybe expect from it if you just look at like the recruiting accolades of all the players on the offense. But I do think it is still like it's becoming an above average offense. It's improved over the course of this season. And I know there was the coordinator changeover this offseason with Tony Elliott leaving finally. So this is kind of a new thing that's taken a few games, but it seems like things are starting to click a little bit for that offense. It looks better than it did week 1 against Georgia Tech, I'll say that. And so I think there's some hope for Clemson here. They might be building towards another playoff appearance and kind of getting to that place late in the season that we know that Clemson can get to with an uber-talented roster and a well-coached team, and especially on defense. Again, what we saw on Saturday was really impressive, and I think that would translate against almost anybody they'll play later this season or even into the postseason. So credit where it's due. Credit to Clemson for a really well-played game. Credit to NC State. I thought they played well, just kind of got outplayed here, unfortunately, and that's the way that it goes. So Clemson 30, NC State 20. Ultimately, the post-game win expectancy, I was surprised to see this from Bill C, 92.3% to Clemson. So it was a 10-point game, but it was a game that Clemson was almost certainly going to win with the way that it was played out. So number 5, Clemson 30, number 10, NC State 20. We'll keep moving here. Number 22, Wake Forest 31. Number 23, Florida State 21. Another really well-played game. Same channel, time slot right before this. It was the 3:30 game on ABC. I thought this was a really well-played game. Florida State acquitted themselves well in a game where they lost by 10 points. And Wake Forest, holy hell, credit to them for the way that they got up off the deck after losing in an overtime emotional game last week at Clemson, going on the road into a hostile environment and winning the way that they did here. I was incredibly impressed with how well Wake Forest played here. Sam Hartman looked good again. Stat line wasn't amazing. I thought some of that was a credit to Florida State's defense. I thought they played quite well in this game for a talented Wake Forest offense and one that is really obviously well coached and has a long track record of putting up a lot of points. They kept Wake in check for a lot of this game. Wake, had some moments running the ball, especially later in the game. They had a long drive in the fourth quarter to really kind of put this game away and keep Florida State from being able to rally late. Wake gets the ball back with about 9.5 minutes on the clock. They go 18 plays, 66 yards in 6.5 minutes, basically kill the clock, give themselves a 10-point lead, and that was that. Florida State ends up going down 10 plays, 38 yards. They miss a field goal with about a minute left, and that was officially that. But for Wake Forest to put together that drive at that point in the game and avoid a potential overtime situation, something like that, as they were only leading by 7 at the time. So I thought that was really impressive. I was impressed by both of these teams in kind of in different ways. This is a little bit more of what we would expect on any given week from Wake Forest lately. But Florida State, too, I mean, again, a team that is improving, that is so much better visually than they were at this time last year. And you can see that Mike Norvell and that coaching staff, they're building something here. There is really some improvement that you're seeing kind of all across the board. The defense is playing really well, I think. They've improved quite a bit. The offensive line is competent for the first time since, Jimbo left. That's been a long time ago. So they're building something here. I think the real question is going to become, and I don't want to focus on next year as we're in the middle of a season. The only question in my mind as they continue to build this is what's the plan when Jordan Travis leaves? And I think that's the thing that you got to figure out. But otherwise, I mean, what I'm seeing right here, I think it's pretty clear Florida State's one of the 4 best teams in the ACC. I mean, you look at some of the remaining schedule. Again, you got at NC State and home against Clemson the next 2 weeks, but I mean, Georgia Tech, Miami, at Syracuse, Louisiana, and Florida, this is going to be at least a 7-8 win Florida State team. That's before they really upset anybody. So I'm impressed. I'm impressed. I thought that both of these teams played well. There were a couple of moments here or there. I know Florida State struggled in the red zone a couple times. They missed a couple opportunities. They had the ball right before halftime inside the red zone and missed a field goal, so they came away without any points there. There were a couple of turnovers here. I think Florida, or just one actually. Florida State -1 in turnovers. So overall, not sloppy in any way. Just again, one team made more plays, and credit to them. So Wake Forest again bounces back in a pretty impressive and unbelievable fashion, I thought, and gets this win on the road in a really, really tough spot for them. They win 31-21 over Florida State. Wake coming up, they got Army next week and then a bye week before taking on Boston College and Louisville. So Wake Forest, I think, in position to kind of go on a run and stay within the top 25, stay ranked. They're up to 15 this weekend, right behind NC State. So credit to the Deacs. I was thinking about this. We talk about Clemson, NC State, Wake, and Florida State. I'm sitting here thinking to myself earlier today, and I'm going to float this to Mike probably on our preview here later this week. If I start naming off the best teams in the ACC, how many teams do I name before I name somebody from the Coastal Division? And think about that, because the first 4 teams that I would name, really without hesitation, are Clemson, NC State, Wake Forest, and Florida State. And then the question becomes, is anybody in the Coastal Division better than, Syracuse? Syracuse has looked pretty decent, pretty well put together, and we'll talk about them here in a little bit. But Syracuse is a fully capable team. They're ranked now this week. Is there anyone in the Coastal that can match that? Is it North Carolina? Miami hadn't looked great. We'll talk about Pitt here in a second. They had a moment this weekend. The ACC Atlantic might have the 5 best teams in the ACC this year, and I think that's kind of just interesting and unusual, but something that very much could be true. And of course, I think all 5 of those are ranked as well. So credit to them. And by the way, who is the best team in the Coastal? Because it might be Duke. Think on that. Let's move on to a Coastal Division game. And speaking of, Georgia Tech 26, the number 24 Pitt Panthers 21. Georgia Tech a 3-touchdown underdog in this game. They go in and they win the game on the field in Pittsburgh. They get Brent Key his first win as Georgia Tech's head coach. I cannot tell you how happy I was for him. Watching him in the post-game interview and how he was pretty clearly choking back tears. for how happy he was. I was so thrilled for him. I know he's a guy who he played at Georgia Tech. He loves the Institute. And he's a guy who I think this would be his dream job if he were to be hired full time. And so you could just tell how much it meant to him and what a big deal it was. And so it made me really happy to see how happy he was and that the players were able to get this done for him. Georgia Tech in general, I'll say this. I don't know that they necessarily played well here. I think they were maybe a little bit better. Someone asked me the other day, what was the difference here? What did you see from Georgia Tech in this game that was different from what you have seen from Georgia Tech so far this year? And I don't know that there were any major discernible differences. I think one of them, there were a couple of personnel changes. Hassan Hall gets the start at running back and really played almost the entire game in the backfield for Georgia Tech. He got 20 carries for 157 yards, almost had a touchdown, but was called down short on at least one occasion. So he ended up being one of the ACC players of the week as the running back of the week. I know the kicker position, Gavin Stewart gets his first chance to be the place kicker in quite a while. Goes a casual 4 for 4 and 2 for 2 on extra points. 4 for 4 on field goals, by the way. I mean, that's something that has been completely and totally missing under Jeff Collins. As much as he loved talking about all things special teams and how important special teams were and how hard they work, the kicking game has been just nothing short of a disaster and a constant adventure in the worst way. And for game one to come out and kick 4 field goals, make all of them, it's like I don't know what Brent Key did in practice. I'm pretty sure you don't teach somebody to kick in 4 days or a couple hours here or there. So maybe just a coincidence, but certainly the personnel change there would be something that he did. And then I felt like the defense maybe played a little bit more aggressive, a little faster, a little bit more physical than I'm used to seeing them. But I don't know if there was anything really truly discernibly different in that way. I think Georgia Tech, honestly, truthfully, I don't love saying something like this, but if I'm being really, really honest, I think Georgia Tech kind of got lucky to win this game. They hit 5 or 6 big plays on offense, and they were +3 in turnovers. And I think that's why you saw them win this game, ultimately. Pitt, I thought was – and we'll talk about this here in a little bit in kind of a different way. Pitt had a bit of a mess of a game here. Keaton Slovis did not look good for the most part. The stat line doesn't look terrible, 26 of 45 for 305, 3 touchdowns and a pick. But I think a majority of that came like in the fourth quarter when you're down a couple scores and Georgia Tech's kind of playing prevent a little bit. He struggled for a lot of this game. He has issues, man. Keaton Slovis holds onto the ball way too long, man. You got to get rid of that thing. He takes hits. He waits and doesn't throw balls when guys are open, and they end up getting covered up. Like, it is not a great look, and it is a little bit frustrating. I don't know. Pitt did pass more in this game, but again, they were down in the second half and trying to come back a little bit, which would kind of explain that. But I don't know. Pitt couldn't get a whole lot of anything working in this game on offense. And really when they did, they'd get a couple of first downs and then it would be a penalty or a sack or something and things would stall out. Pitt was penalized 12 times for 75 yards in this game, by the way. Yeah, not a great look. They just really struggled on offense. It really didn't help that Izzy Abanikanda left this game in the second quarter. He did not return. He was in street clothes and seemed to have his arm in a sling the second half, so that's not a good sign. I don't know that we've found out a whole lot more about what's going on there, but he's a big deal. He's the best part of their offense this year. Vincent Davis did, I think, acquit himself pretty well carrying the load for Pitt. He 15 carries for 80 yards. That'll work. Pitt's receivers struggled in this game too. So it's not just Slovis holding onto the ball, occasionally inaccurate, but also, I mean, you had Pitt receivers struggling to catch. I don't know. Something just looked off about Pitt in this game. They did not look like they were ready to play. I don't know if they just thought they were going to be able to walk through this one, against a down and rough Georgia Tech team. I don't know if some of the elements at play, it was kind of rainy and gross all day, but Pitt just struggled for so much of this game. I mean, if you look at the drive chart, I mean, it's 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 7 plays, 26 yards punt, 9 plays turnover on downs, 8 plays touchdown, and that's in the first half. So they score a touchdown at the very end. And then it's 10 plays fumble, 6 plays punt, 5 plays interception, 1 play fumble, 5 plays punt, 9 plays touchdown, 6 plays touchdown. And that was it. So I don't know how many possessions that was exactly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The first 11 times that they had the ball, I mean, it was, 1 touchdown, 3 turnovers, and 7 punts, including like 3 3-and-outs to start the game. Yeah, just not great from Pitt's offense. I mean, a little bit of credit to Tech's defense. Charlie Thomas came into this game at halftime after he missed the first half with a targeting suspension from last week, and just out of nowhere, he ends up being the player of the game. He came down with an interception that he just basically took a ball from a Pitt receiver who was trying to make a catch. Wanted it more. There was that. He also recovered a fumble. I think that Ace Ely maybe knocked out or somebody else knocked out. He only played a half of football, comes up with 2 turnovers, makes 7 tackles. He's the team's second leading tackler, so you can tell how much he means to Georgia Tech's defense. I could go on about this. All I'm saying, Pitt, I don't know how good Pitt is, man. I don't know. That defense is still pretty good. They had a couple of rough moments where they gave up big plays to Georgia Tech, but otherwise they were pretty good from down to down. This Pitt offense is inconsistent. It is inconsistent and struggles from down to down, drive to drive, game to game, and it's gonna be tough to be anything other than kind of what you've been under Pat Narduzzi with not other than last year. They were going last year they were 11-3, but other than that they've been like a 7-5 team basically the whole time he's been there, and that's what you're gonna be this year with the way that this offense is looking right now. So again, we'll talk about kind of some of our thoughts on Pitt and how people feel about that here shortly, but we'll get there. Overall, but once again, credit to Georgia Tech. You got it done, made a couple plays when you needed to, and got the win for Brent Key. We did have a couple of questions real quick that came in from Alex Sikar on Twitter for the Georgia Tech portion of the pod. He says, number 1, my wife asks the all-important question, does Georgia Tech win this game with Pitt if Collins isn't fired? Have to imagine no, but this game was an implosion for Pitt offensively, so maybe it's a coincidence. Possible it's a coincidence. I'm with you, Alex. No, I don't think that they win this game with Collins on the sideline. Once again, this team under Collins, I mean, Pitt would have just bowled over him. They would have run this ball probably 40 times for like 250 yards. Pitt is more physical, and anytime under Collins, that just never really played well against Georgia Tech. They never really had a chance. They would have folded up. They would have quit. I think that was maybe one thing that the players responded to Brent Key in a way that they have not to Collins is, again, you can't teach a team to be physical in just like a week, but I think you can at least put a little bit of a sense of like, I don't want to disappoint my coach, and toughness and physicality being one thing that Key definitively expects, I think, is something that might have made a somewhat difference here with the defense being able to go blow for blow with a physical Pittsburgh front. So there's that. The other question, since Georgia Tech isn't doing money down anymore, are third downs now called key plays in honor of the new coach? Does the Virginia Tech fan base allow this? I would offer that I think they're called third down. And, I don't know, play Hell's Bells or play what is it, Adagio or whatever the band plays normally on third downs, whatever. We don't need to brand third down. I think you saw what happens when something like that happens and it's not an organic thing. I don't know that anybody really took that seriously, and honestly, it was kind of embarrassing for the longest time, especially when this is one of the worst third down defenses in all of college football. So don't draw attention to something that you're not good at is something I think I would start with. So just call them third down and maybe try to get some stops. That Georgia Tech, honestly, going back to like earlier in the Paul Johnson era, they have never been particularly good on third down, which is kind of just mind-numbing and bizarre and frustrating and all this stuff. So anyways, Georgia Tech, a good win here, 26-21 over Pittsburgh. And don't look now, Georgia Tech, I mean, I know they're ranked 92nd in the SP Plus right now, 87th on offense and 98th on defense. They have games remaining at number 87 Virginia Tech, home this week against number 80 Duke, and then in a couple of weeks after a bye week, home against number 78 Virginia. So you've got 3 teams on your schedule here coming up, and I believe they're your next 3 games, if I'm not mistaken, against teams that are no better than 78th in SP Plus right now. So I know what we think of Georgia Tech. I know what the predictions were coming into the season. I'm just saying there's some winnable games here in front of you that there's a Florida State game in there, tucked in there. That's not a winnable game. But, we talked about how the Coastal Division, not all that illustrious at the moment. And all these teams, who's the best team here? Might be Duke. Any of these games are winnable, I think. There's only about 2 games left on the schedule that I'm going to say are pretty much definitely going to be Georgia Tech losses at Florida State and Thanksgiving weekend in Athens. Other than that, anyone else in the Coastal still on the schedule, I think that could be a win. It could be. I'm not saying it will be. I'm just saying it could be. 26-21, Georgia Tech winners over the Pitt Panthers. Let's take a break here real quick. Remind you about section103.com. It is the internet's premier place for all great things Georgia Tech apparel. So if you were looking for something to wear to this Duke game here on Saturday, I believe it's the homecoming game, so you got to look fancy, you got to look good, know who you're supporting there. Go to section103.com. Use promo code GOACC for 10% off your first order. They've got T-shirts, they got sweatshirts. There's a little chill in the air now, as the kids are saying. So go get sweatshirts, hoodies, those things. They've got things in the official Tech Gold, all the official word marks, something for men, women, children, the whole family. All of it can go get stuff for you at section103.com. And once again, use promo code GOACC for 10% off your first order. I have some Section 103, plenty of it, and I love it, and I could not live without it. By the way, if you're not following Section 103 on Twitter or on Instagram, I highly recommend that you do that. Because as much as 10% off your first order is a wonderful deal, you could even get better deals if you're following them on Twitter and on Instagram. Following the win against Pittsburgh, they put out a deal that only on Sunday Georgia Tech beat number 24 Pittsburgh, and that meant everything in the store was 24% off. I had people texting me talking about how they were getting a bunch of Christmas presents. They were really getting after it. So keep an eye. Go follow them on social media, once again, at Section 103 on either Twitter or Instagram to be notified when they're going to run a special sale like this. They've been doing these things recently. They said that if not for the Pittsburgh win, they were considering a 10-3, 103 day sale, but they had a better reason for one here previously. So point is, go follow them on Twitter, on Instagram. Keep up with any deals that come up. But if there's no active deals running, make sure you use promo code GOACC for 10% off your first order at section103.com. Let's keep moving here. Boston College, 34. Louisville, 33. Credit where it's due. Boston College, first of all, Phil Drakovic's stat line looks ridiculous here. 18 of 21 for 304, 3 touchdowns, and he did have 1 pick. They didn't throw a ton of passes here. They ran the ball quite a bit more than they threw it. But when they threw it, they got a lot out of it. About 14.5 yards per attempt is pretty damn good. I'll take that. Zay Flowers, 5 catches for 151 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a nice 69-yard touchdown reception at one point. I believe that was the one where he mossed 2 Louisville defenders. So Boston College, they did struggle at times to consistently move the ball, but they were able to rip off some big plays on a number of occasions during this game. So really a lot of credit to them. On the Louisville end, I came away from this feeling like this is fireable. This is a fireable offense. This is a Boston College team whose offense has not had a whole lot of life so far all year. They have struggled majorly. You gave up 34 points to them. They just put up 14 against Florida State. They put up 10 against Virginia Tech. They even in the season opener against Rutgers put up 21 points. You gave up 34 points on a number of different coverage busts and just bad looking, bad angles, bad tackling. The defense was really pretty bad in this game in so many moments in so many ways. Incredibly frustrating. I don't know if this is fireable for Scott Satterfield necessarily. It could be. And I wouldn't blame you if you did, honestly, with the way things are going and the way that this team is just so inconsistent and up and down. And there's not really a single thing that they're doing consistently well from week to week right now. And it's just kind of frustrating and mind-numbing in year 4 of this coaching staff. But the defense especially, I have not seen any indications that, I don't know, Brian Brown or, take your pick of anybody on this Louisville coaching staff was relieved of their duties today. And I just kind of can't believe that. This was so bad and just a bad look. And if this is what you're going to do and what you're going to be, I know for a fact, like, you're not going to be meeting your season goals at this point. Like, the goals of having at least 7, if not 8, maybe 9 wins, like, where are they on the schedule, man? This is rough. You've still got games left against Wake, Clemson, NC State, Kentucky. You're 2-3, so, I mean, you're running out of games that you can reasonably win and be expected to win when they look as bad as they do here. They're 0-3 in conference right now. I mean, that loss to Florida State kind of looming large. That was a blown lead. You lost early in the season to Syracuse in just a total clunker of a game. This is frustrating. I feel like I know where this is going to end up. It's similar to kind of where Georgia Tech was here a few weeks ago, where it's like, I know what's going to happen. I just don't know when it's going to happen. And that's the point where you kind of wonder, like, how much of this is worth kind of continuing to give Scott Satterfield chances and more rope. And honestly, I think this game coming up this weekend at Virginia might be his last stand. And I say that because this is a team that Louisville should be able to beat this Virginia team pretty handily. We'll talk about them in a minute. But not only that, if you lose that game or it's even way too close, like a last-second comeback is needed, whatever, I mean, you're also coming up on the bye week, and that's the point when you want to do that. Is following Virginia, you've got a week off before you host Pittsburgh, Wake Forest, and James Madison in consecutive weeks at home. So if you want to get the crowd back into it and interested, maybe make that coaching change prior to that bye week. I'm so frustrated and I can't believe that this is where Louisville is at in year 4. I thought, if nothing else, I mean, we can call into question the recruiting over the last couple of years for Louisville, and I know this current class is really good, but the last few years, I mean, the recruiting has been underwhelming. But if nothing else, I mean, Scott Satterfield was able to draw up some ball plays and get something going, and just wasn't able to in this game. By the way, it would be remiss if I didn't mention Malik Cunningham did go out of this game. He took a shot. I think it was late third quarter, early fourth quarter. It looked like a concussion thing. He came out for a play or two, went back in for like another drive or two, and then at some point he was just out. And it's kind of concerning. I didn't see him take an additional hit or shot anywhere that was like, oh, that's the one that knocked him out. He took a rough hit, played for another, probably 10, 12, 15 offensive snaps. I think he ran the ball a couple times even, and then he leaves the game. Not a good look, especially on a weekend where we saw kind of what happened to Tua on Thursday night and kind of the fallout from that. Like, I don't know what happened there. Not a good look. Not a good look. This is frustrating for Louisville. And as a Louisville fan, like, it's frustrating for me. I really felt like they should be better. They were 2 touchdown favorites in this game, and they lose it. And by the way, they lost it on a blocked extra point, if I'm not mistaken. That's your 1-point margin of victory for Boston College. So that's further not a good look. But once again, credit to Boston College. I mean, they hit some big plays. They really used Zay Flowers really well. Jalen Gill with a big 50-yard catch at one point. So credit to Boston College. I thought their defense played reasonably well. I do think this Boston College team, in some ways, is like a less pronounced version of, I believe it was the 2014 team that had like a top 5 defense in the entire country and like a bottom 5 offense in the country. This is definitely a Boston College team where the defense is better than the offense. And the defense is not bad. It's I'd say it's average to above average. But the offense has been pretty rough. But it's not like totally dreadful. And as you saw here, I mean, they clearly have ways to pick up chunk yards, big plays, and move the ball at times if they can really kind of get in rhythm and have their opportunities. And a weapon like Zay Flowers, he's special. He is special. He is fun to watch while he's here, and really hope he gets a chance to kind of shine through in a few more games this fall before moving on to what comes next. But in any case, Boston College 34, Louisville 33. Pretty rough outing for Louisville, and I think a firing is happening sooner than later if this is the game you're going to lose and lose it this way. So we will keep moving. Duke 38, Virginia 17. First of all, told you, Duke is good. Duke is legit good, and Virginia, again, a team that seemed like they had been able to move the ball. They struggled to move the ball in this game. Did not look great moving it at all. Brennan Armstrong has regressed, and some of that might be offensive line related. Some of it might be offensive scheme related. I don't know exactly what it is, but this Virginia offense was really pretty special last year in a lot of ways, and this year it is not. It is not special. They have struggled to finish drives. They've struggled to keep possession of the ball at times. So 2 turnovers again in this game for Virginia. They were -2 as Duke did not turn the ball over. Duke might be maybe a little bit unspectacular, but they are really fundamentally sound. They do not beat themselves. And when they don't beat themselves in this Coastal Division right now, they're going to win a lot of games because these teams, the other teams in the Coastal will beat themselves for sure. And so Duke, again, ran the hell out of the ball in this game. Jalen Coleman, 19 carries for 97 yards. Jaquez Moore with a 59-yard run in there. Riley Leonard added to the run game, 9 carries, 59 yards, and 2 scores. Jordan Waters, a little bit, he struggled at times, but he did get in the end zone. So, I mean, good afternoon, or I guess technically it was an evening. Good evening for the Duke Blue Devils. They continue to look good. They're 4-1. Once again, they might be the best team in the Coastal. They have games. They'll be at Georgia Tech this weekend, and then they get North Carolina at home, and then road trips to Miami and Boston College. So they will benefit, I guess, from some home games that they've had here. They've played 3 out of 5 so far at home, but road trips coming up in 3 of their next 4. So we'll see how well they are able to go on the road and keep going. That Northwestern win, by the way, has not aged particularly great. Northwestern has completely fallen apart. But last week going into Lawrence and almost beating Kansas and playing with them for a full 60 minutes, that was a good sign. And winning this game as convincingly as they did, they were up 21-7 at halftime. I mean, again, Duke's just better than Virginia. This Virginia team is a little bit rough right now. The way, I don't have to go too far in on that, but this is kind of a reset year for Tony Elliott and this staff. I don't know that it necessarily had to be. I mean, again, Brandon Armstrong and the receivers are back. The offensive line, obviously, as we said, I mean, they lost, I think, all 5 starters plus a couple of their top backups after last season. Sounds like there might have been some shenanigans on, what the outgoing staff was informing the players or recommending that they do. But in any case, I mean, I don't know. Virginia's struggling and might take them a couple years to get it going if they ever get it going. That's something you got to consider as well. So we'll see. Duke 38, Virginia 17. I'll keep moving here. North Carolina 41, Virginia Tech 10. Woof. Virginia Tech, woof. North Carolina's defense has not really had a pulse all year. They have played shootouts, and really there was only one section of the game, I guess, against Georgia State where it's oh, yeah, they look actually kind of decent. They got a few stops. They got stops all afternoon against Virginia Tech. Grant Wells, not it, man. He is not it. He goes 16-26 for 139 and a pick in this game. He was spelled at one point by Jason Brown, who comes in and goes 4 of 9 for 35 yards. They struggled to run the ball 35 times for 99 yards. This Virginia Tech offense is bad, man. It is bad. It's going to take some time for Brent Pry to rebuild this thing on offense into something that actually can score points and can sustain a couple drives here or there. North Carolina, on the other hand, Drake May, put it this way, both of the quarterbacks in this game are a problem. They are just very different types of problems. Grant Wells is a problem for Virginia Tech's offense. Drake May is a problem for opposing defenses. He goes 26 of 36 for 363, 3 touchdowns. Josh Downs caught 120 yards on 8 receptions. He looked good. Drake May adding in the run game, got 73 yards and 2 scores on the ground, so he comes away with 5 touchdowns on the day. Just a really thorough outing by North Carolina coming out. First half drive chart, punt, touchdown, 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 punt, field goal. So you had the ball 6 times and scored 24 points. That's pretty good. I'll take that. First 3 drives of the second half, touchdown, field goal, touchdown. Absolutely ran away with this thing. So I really impressed with North Carolina and that offense in particular. I don't know if the defense really holds up another week. It almost certainly does not. But Virginia Tech's offense is in that kind of place right now that even North Carolina can get some stops on them. Not fully in told you so mode yet on Virginia Tech, but look at the remaining schedule, and let's talk about how I said I think Virginia Tech goes about 4-8 this year, and Mike thought I was absolutely insane for that. I might not have been that insane. At Pitt, Miami, at NC State, Georgia Tech, at Duke, at Liberty, home against Virginia. Who wins the Commonwealth Cup? I do not know. I do not know, and it kind of makes my head hurt to think about it. Probably Virginia at this point, honestly. At least they can move the ball some, but who knows? Rivalry games get weird. North Carolina's 4-1. They are now 1-0 in conference, and I don't know if we're going to find out a lot about them here in 2 weeks when they go and play Duke and Durham. I don't know. Kind of seems like that might be the game that tells us who's the best team in the Coastal, but that also might change pretty drastically within like 3 weeks. Who knows? So North Carolina 41, Virginia Tech 10. Last one here real quick before we get into some quick awards, and then we get on out of here. Syracuse 59, Wagner nothing. And I mean, the score not really that shocking, kind of what you expected. I mean, Wagner's 0-4 at the FCS level, so they're not any good. Wagner only ran 38 plays on offense. Like, that's not great. Syracuse, I think the stat line here is hilarious. Garrett Schrader goes 17 of 17 for 238 and 2 scores. He threw 17 passes. Every single one of them was caught by a Syracuse receiver. That's pretty impressive. Syracuse, just a thorough thrashing here. I would give you Sean Tucker's stat line, but I don't want to ruin it. We are getting a report now coming in from the @SeanTucker2020 Twitter account, which states, Saturday we won Syracuse 59, Wagner 0. I'm pleased with the outcome of the game. 5 wins and now a much-needed bye week. I'm pleased with my performance, but with 7 games left, I'm still working hard. The grind never stops. I rushed for 232 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 receptions for 15 yards. #pleased. That report coming from amateur AP writer Sean Tucker recapping the game and his personal performance on Saturday. So credit to him. Good win for Syracuse. Didn't mess around. Wagner, not good. Not good. Previously had lost 66-7 to Rutgers, and a 20-point loss to St. Francis of Pennsylvania, and a 17-point loss to Fordham. So that's the level of competition you were seeing there. But Syracuse dispatched them. Yeah, they just totally got rid of them, or disposed of them, dispatched them, whatever. Syracuse 5-0, and they're ranked. They are 22nd in the most recent AP poll that came out this week. So credit to them. And like I said, I mean, they might well be the 5th best team in the ACC. I think that is very much on the table here, as the Coastal Division is in a special state of disarray, as only the Coastal can be in the final year of the division structure. So, hey, go ACC to that. And credit to Syracuse. Once again, 59-0 winners over Wagner. All right, let's do some awards here real quick. The Go ACC Moment of the Week, let's start there, as, once again, a bit of a rough outing for the Pitt Panthers on Saturday as they lose 26-21 to Georgia Tech. And when you lose as a 3-touchdown favorite, and especially in the night game, I would say, you get some people maybe in their feelings, we'll say. And so this was, I know that Mike's not here right now, but this was a special request from Mike that this in particular be the Go ACC Moment of the Week. We had a loyal listener from who is a Pittsburgh fan who had some choice words for us, I'll say. Basically, Mike made a joke, another loyal listener, Hobie Webster, a Pitt fan, basically said something to the effect of, I'm unsubscribing from all the college football podcasts at this point, as he was frustrated that Pitt lost. We said, hey, the Pitt jokes would be funny, to which got a reply from one of our Pitt listeners, a longtime listener, by the way. Go F yourselves. Pitt won the whole damn conference last year, and you never gave him credit once. Every game you talk about how the other team messed up. Go listen to the conference championship recap episode and tell me you didn't talk more about Wake than Pitt. Woo! Choice words indeed. Reads like we might have been several bourbons deep. It's okay. We feel that. It's been there. No worries. No hard feelings. We get it. We get it. And if you think Well, these guys talk about things that kind of go crazy in the ACC quite a bit. I mean, podcast is called Basketball Conference for a reason. It's not because there's just a wealth of ultra high-level football being played every single week in this conference. We'll say that, to say the least. Go ACC to that. The Go ACC moment of the week is people getting in their feelings on Twitter. I will not narc out said listener, but I think they know who they are. And I don't know. I'm guessing by giving this award, we will find out if they're still listening or not. So, hey, if you are, hey, shout out. We still love you. We still believe in you. So we hope you still join us. The Brian Van Gorder Memorial You Tried Award goes to the Louisville defense. Has to. My goodness. A Boston College offense that has done almost nothing for like a month now. And they were just hitting big play after big play. They really put out a highlight tape for Zay Flowers in the NFL draft next year. They give up 34 points, a bunch of big plays left and right. Really, if that was the only game that you had watched so far this year, you would think that Boston College has a pretty high-powered big play offense. So far, that couldn't be further from the truth, but it was the case on Saturday. So credit to the Louisville defense, the Brian Van Gorder Memorial You Tried Award winners of this week. All right. Team of the week. I was really impressed once again with Wake Forest. I thought they played a really, really good game and in a really tough spot once again. I mean, getting up off the deck the way that they did after a heartbreaking full 60-minute loss to Clemson the week before in overtime, and then going on the road to Tallahassee and getting that win the way that they did and being as convincing as they were. Really credit to them. They're my co-team of the week. And then, of course, how could I forget my Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets? Getting the win for Brent Key. Brent Key now officially undefeated as Georgia Tech's head coach. I think that is a stat that will continue to be the case for literally several hours and days even. So we'll keep you tuned here, keep you updated as something changes there. But yeah, teams of the week, Wake Forest and Georgia Tech with a couple of big wins, and both as underdogs. So credit to them for getting those wins. Player of the week, I don't know, kind of hard to pick here. Big Cinco came up in big moments for Clemson on Saturday night. I thought that was pretty good. A couple of rushing touchdowns, a couple of big moments there. Drake May just absolutely shredded Virginia Tech's defense, and that's a pretty decent Virginia Tech defense, but just had no answers for Drake May. He scores 5 touchdowns on the day. Hassan Hall coming up with 157 yards on the ground for Georgia Tech against that Pittsburgh defense, so credit to those guys. And, of course, Zay Flowers, 151 yards and 2 scores through the air for Boston College against Louisville. Just a few of the really big-time performances we saw from guys this weekend. And credit, by the way, to, once again, I'll take a couple liberties. It's my podcast. Charlie Thomas played one half of football, comes up with 2 turnovers, 7 tackles. I thought he was really, really impressive for a guy who only got a few drives on the field. He made a massive impact for Georgia Tech and helped them win that game. So credit to that guy as well. All right. I think that's all I got on week 5. Once again, Mike, he'll be back. We'll do a proper preview for week 6 here, probably on Wednesday. I don't think we have any weeknight action this week. We do not. But we do have another really full slate of ACC games. We have 7 games coming up this next weekend. Almost all are ACC conference-on-conference action. A lot more high-level matchups as well. We've got Florida State and NC State. That's going to be a fun one. North Carolina and Miami, and Virginia Tech Pitt going to be interesting for positioning in the Coastal Division. So keep it tuned here. We will get you ready for all things Week 6 here in the coming days. In the meantime, you can find us on Twitter. I'm at FTRSJoey. He's at Mike McDaniel SI. Together we're at BC Podcast ACC. You can send us an email with your questions, your comments, your concerns to the longest email address known to man, basketballconferencepodcast@gmail.com. We're on iTunes. We're on Spotify, all the places you go find your podcast. We're also on YouTube now. And we don't have a proper URL for our YouTube channel, but if you go to YouTube, search for Basketball Conference, we are starting to post some video podcasts there. We have, I'll check the actual number here, but we have something like 32, 36, 30-some subscribers right now. We need to get to 100 subscribers on YouTube. And if we do that, then, and only then, well, they give us a specialized URL for our channel, so we don't have to tell you just go search for us. We could actually give you a proper URL if we get to 100 subscribers. So that's your goal. That's your job. If you are listening to this right now and you are not subscribed to our podcast on YouTube, you are not one of the 32 current subscribers that we have, go do that. Go get on your phone. Go get your parents' phone, your wife's phone, your kid's phone, whatever. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just go find Basketball Conference, the ACC Football Podcast on YouTube. We're posting our episodes there. There's a lot of cool video editing, too, going on. That shout out to producer Scott. This will probably be posted there. He is currently out of town for like a couple of weeks. So, I don't know how much this one will be edited here in the immediate future, but those videos are coming. They're tracking locks and picks that we make every week and showing our record and everything like that. So go find our videos and our channel on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Smash the like, I think is what the kids are saying on YouTube these days. So maybe do that too. I don't know how that works. I think that's all I got. I don't think I missed anything, but if I did, again, please reach out on Twitter. Let us know what we missed or what we forgot about. Again, I'm just one man. I don't know. I'm one man. I'm a father. I'm trying to do everything and keep the content mill rolling. So, we'll see how that goes. But anyways, all right. Well, until next time when we come back and preview Week 6, I am Joey Weaver. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will talk to you again soon. Until then, go ACC.